Mumia Abu-jamal.
Against Mumia today. But that's not the end. Both sides, Mumia and the Krasner prosecution, both have 20 days to respond to this ruling, and the judge will decide on whether which response will be accepted and what her final ruling will be on December 16th. So it's really important that we continue having solidarity with Mumia Abu-Jamal, who has been in prison for 40 years. And
it's called Sojourner Truth. It is up on the King Estates campus. Some of you might have heard of it, as it's been in the news recently for the school that was, you know, victimized by some violence. But anyway, I've been at that campus since about 2013, 2014. In 2015, I started an essay assignment based on the guilt or innocence of Mumia Abu-jamal. And I framed it as whether the students agree or disagree with the FOP, and that there's no evidence that exists that, you know, shows Mumia is innocent. And I probably got about 50 or 60 essays, and absolutely none of them agreed with the FOP. So I just wanted to bring that, you know, like say that as a teacher, I think Mumia in his case, and you know, the frame up that they did is very, very helpful for students in understanding the role of white supremacy in the U.S. version of capitalism. So I don't have a lot of time because I got to go pick up my daughter who's about to get out of school, but I just want to really appreciate everybody who came down, and I will continue to use Mumia in the classroom, and hopefully at a certain point we can, you know, celebrate Mumia's freedom and, you know, bring him out to Oakland. So free Mumia, free them all.
From the mobilization for Mumia, who are in Philadelphia, who are fighting for a new trial for Mumia, and they have been the main group that has been fighting out of Philadelphia for decades with the International Family and Friends, led by Pam Africa and the Africa Family. Workers' World Party has been with Mumia since the very beginning. We organized a massive demonstration in San Francisco, but also a massive meeting at Madison Square Garden in New York City to demand the freedom of Mumia. It's a long time ago. And we haven't had a lot of victories. And Mumia has never, ever spoken for himself only. Mumia has always said our responsibility is to free all the political prisoners. It is to stop mass incarceration. It is to go out into the streets to support the Black Lives Matter movement wherever we can. It is to demand an end to U.S. imperialist wars, to the deportation of Haitian people and all the undocumented. And today, and hopefully Pierre will be with us, but today at 4 o'clock in San Francisco, there is going to be a demonstration at the Federal Building to demand no U.S., UN, NATO intervention in Haiti.
That's right.
We cannot trust the U.S. government to grant Mumia a fair trial. We cannot trust the U.S. government to intervene and help anyone in this world except the Bezoses, except the Elon Musks. They are not for the working class. We have a very exciting set of struggles happening. I don't know if you noticed, every day there are protests, and every day workers across this country are fighting for unions, whether it be at Starbucks or Amazon or Trader Joe's or Chipotle. Workers are fighting for a union like they never have before. I want to urge you. Okay. This is it. We are on the runway to free free Mumia Abu-Jamal. We must do it. Last year was the year of the political prisoner. We had some victories, but we still have not freed Mumia. We still have not freed Leonard. We still have not freed Matulo Shakur. We have to redouble our efforts to show the U.S. government that the people of the U.S., the workers of the world, are opposed to this incarceration of our heroes. Free Mumia! Free them all!
Free Mumia! Free them all!
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Judy.
Free them all!
Our next speaker is Cynthia Papermaster from Code Pink, one of the most active anti-war and social justice organizations. I think the full name is Code Pink Women for Peace, yes? Yes. So, Cynthia Papermaster, thank you.
Code Pink Women for Peace is an activist, grassroots, women-led movement or group. We're non-hierarchical and we're women-led because women can lead the way to peace and women can lead the way to Mumia being freed. So I just want to read a statement from Code Pink National on Mumia Abu-jamal. Who is Mumia Abu-jamal? Mumia Abu-Jamal is a revolutionary journalist, a former member of the Black Panther Party, and a Moore supporter. He fought racism and police brutality with outspoken radio reporting in Philadelphia in the 1970s. Known as the voice of the voiceless, he was an award-winning journalist. His work continues today from behind bars with books he has written and recorded essays on imperialism, war, racism, and more. Because he acted and spoke out against police brutality and racism, Mumia was considered an enemy of the state. He was targeted by the FBI's COINTELPRO disruption program from age 15. He was framed for a crime he did not commit, and he was sentenced to death. His death sentence was overturned, but now he's serving life without the possibility of parole. He has been falsely imprisoned now for almost 36 years. When this was written, it was 36 years. Cops, courts, and politicians conspired to put Mumia away, and they are still at it. But Mumia has never wavered from insisting on his innocence.
If you'll hold the microphone. Sure.
Mumia Abu-Jamal should never have spent one day in jail, not one day, not 1 hour, not 1 second. Mumia's case exposed the race and class bias of the entire capitalist judicial system. The state demands his slow death in prison as retaliation to his defiant resistance to state repression and racial oppression. But Mumia has not been silenced. Let's say that. Mumia has not been silenced. Mumia has not been silenced. We stand with Mumia. We stand with Mumia. We stand with Mumia. Mumia's freedom is part of our own struggle for justice and human liberation. Free Mumia and free all political prisoners. Thank you for all being here today. It's such an important event to be here for, and it's so important for us to stand up for what we know is right.
Next speaker is going to explain the legal situation, which is complicated and dastardly. This is Elliot Grossman. He's a Los Angeles attorney who represented Mumia from 2001 through 2003 with Chicago attorney Marlene Kamish, British barrister Nick Brown, Philadelphia attorney J. Michael Farrell, and legal assistant community organizer Tracy Kostenbader. Elliot has practiced law for 44 years. He has taught at People's College of Law in Los Angeles, the University of California, Irvine, and the University of the Americas, and the United States International University in Mexico City. He's an academic member of the Permanent Seminar for Chicano and Border Studies, an interdisciplinary research center of the National Institute of Anthropology and History in Mexico City. And if other people who are speaking give me a printed up introduction, I'll read those too. Elliot.
All right.
Thank you, comrade. Prize-winning journalist and ex-Black Panther Mumia Abu-jamal was framed up and sentenced to death for the murder of a white police officer in Philadelphia in 1981. Mumia is innocent, but he was convicted and sentenced to death in a trial presided over by a racist judge who was overheard by a court stenographer saying, quote, "Yeah, and I'm going to help him fry the N asterisk, 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 asterisk R, except Judge Sabo left out the asterisks." Mumia's trial was nothing more than a legalized lynching in which every one of his constitutional rights was violated. Mumia narrowly avoided execution when our legal team convinced a federal judge to overturn his death sentence in 2001, and that decision was later affirmed on appeal. But Mumia has remained in prison ever since for 40 years, sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. We are here today to show our support for Mumia when his case is once again at a critical moment. Today in Philadelphia, another judge has issued another unjust decision in Mumia's case, a decision that makes no legal sense and which will be appealed, and the struggle will continue to get that decision overturned and to free Mumia, and we need the help and support of everyone here to make sure that that happens. Today in Philadelphia, another bootlicking lackey judge at a hearing granted progressive, in quotation marks, District Attorney Larry Krasner's motion to dismiss Mumia's 6th Post-Conviction Relief Act petition, in which Mumia's lawyers have argued that his conviction should be overturned because of recently discovered evidence which proves that Mumia did not receive a fair trial for 2 basic reasons. Number 1, the prosecutor offered a bribe to one of the purported 2 eyewitnesses, Robert Chobert, to testify that he saw Mumia shoot the police officer when Chobert did not even see the shooting. And number 2, the prosecutor used his peremptory challenges during jury selection to remove African American jurors from the jury because of their race. So the question is, what exactly is this recently discovered evidence which proves these points? It is 2 specific documents found in 6 boxes of prosecution files from Mumia's trial, which were hidden in a warehouse for used office furniture for the last 40 years, but were found recently by Krasner, who had to turn them over to Mumia's attorneys in response to a formal request for production of documents during the discovery phase of litigation over Mumia's previous Post-Conviction Relief Act petition number 5. Petition number 5 was actually granted by Judge Leon Tucker, one of the few African American judges in Pennsylvania, who ruled that Mumia could relitigate the issues previously rejected in Mumia's 4 appeals to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court from denial of his 4 previous post-conviction petitions. Judge Tucker reinstated those previously denied issues and said that Mumia could relitigate all of them. And the reason is interesting. The reason for Tucker's decision was that Ronald Castile, who was the head district attorney at the time of Mumia's appeal, was later put on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and was a justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, moved up to become Chief Justice of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and recently retired. And Judge Tucker ruled that Castile showed an appearance of bias against Mumia. He should have disqualified himself from hearing those 4 appeals, and because of that, Mumia never got a fair hearing on any of his 4 Pennsylvania Supreme Court appeals, and therefore should have the right to relitigate them. However, that decision was overturned by more corrupt judges on the appellate court in Pennsylvania, in a decision that makes no fucking sense whatsoever, but unfortunately I don't have time to explain the ins and outs of it. But talk to me afterwards and I'll explain it if you want to hear it. Just make sure that you've either had about 6 beers or some other natural herbal substances so you can fully comprehend how nonsensical that decision was. But now let me tell you what the 2 documents are that were discovered in the DA's files that the court today refused to consider, refused to look at, and just bought a line of bullshit from the prosecutor's office, because I've read the pleadings that were filed by both sides that the judge looked at, that made her decision on, and I gotta say, Mumia's attorneys, what they wrote was right on, very clear, they were right. Should not have been dismissed. There should have been an evidentiary hearing scheduled on that petition. Then, considering the evidence on that petition on the merits, the judge should have overturned Mumia's conviction and freed him. Instead, the judge bought a line of bullshit and refused to even consider these documents. But let me tell you about the documents. The first document that was the basis for the petition that was ruled on today, that was discovered in the DA's files from 40 years ago, is a letter from this taxi driver, Robert Schobert, who, by the way, is a convicted felon who was convicted of firebombing a school, and he was on probation at the time he testified at the trial, and he was in violation of probation because he was driving on a suspended license, and the DA had him by the balls because if he didn't say what they wanted, they could have sent him back to prison for 32 years to serve out the full sentence. But the latest thing that was discovered is a letter that Robert Schobert wrote to the trial prosecutor a week after he got off the witness stand in Mumia's trial, asking, "Where's my money? I'm writing you about the money I'm owed." In other words, it proves that not only did they threaten Schobert to get him to lie on the witness stand, they actually bribed him with money, like you do down in Mexico. If the police pull you over, you pay a mordida, they call it in Mexico. That's a bribe. That's what the DA did here in the U.S. 40 years ago, offered Schobert a pinche mordida, like we say in Spanish, a fucking bribe to testify against Mumia. That's what it proves. Under the United States Supreme Court decision in a classic case called Brady versus United States, the DA was required to hand that letter over to Mumia's defense attorney at trial so he could have cross-examined Schobert at Mumia's trial and said, "Isn't it true that the DA offered you money to testify and that you're lying on the witness stand, and didn't you write a letter to the DA, and here's the letter, Your Honor, can we put it in evidence so the jury can read the letter themselves?" That would have meant a not guilty for sure, but it didn't happen. It's a violation of Brady. That alone is reason to overturn Mumia's conviction. But there's another reason. The other thing they found in those files was the notes that the trial prosecutor took during jury selection in Mumia's case, and very interestingly, after the names of some of the black jurors, the DA wrote a big letter B for black, and after the name of some of the white jurors, he wrote a big W, a big letter W for white. In other words, he was keeping track of the race of the jurors to make sure he kept as many black jurors off of that jury. That is a violation of the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Batson versus United States, and that alone by itself requires that Mumia's conviction be overturned and that he be freed. But today, a judge refused to even consider those arguments, refused to even look at those documents, and dismissed Mumia's 6th post-conviction petition. So, in conclusion, We have lost a battle today, but we will win the war if people continue to struggle and continue to organize. We need to organize more demonstrations in Philadelphia, the state of Pennsylvania, here in the Bay Area, and throughout the country and the world to demand that Mumia's conviction be overturned and he be freed. Protest demonstrations are just the beginning. We need to call on the unions in this country to take a stand, like the International Longshore and Warehouse Union did one day in 1999, when it closed down all the ports on the West Coast and made one demand: free Mumia Abu-Jamal. We need more unions to stage political protest strikes like that one, so we can use the momentum to build toward a general strike to demand free Mumia Abu-Jamal and all political prisoners who are victims of the class war in this country by the 1% against the 99%. We must continue to support Mumia's fight for freedom in the courts, but we should have no faith that he will obtain justice from the judges of the ruling class unless and until they are forced to do justice by the organized might of the working class. Workers of the world, unite! Free Mumia Abu-Jamal! Free Mumia Abu-Jamal! Free Mumia!
Our next speaker is Jack Heyman.
So, thank you, Elliot, for giving us the detailed explanation of where Mumia's case is now. What he documented was Mumia is innocent and he's been framed up since day one. He's America's most well-known political prisoner, and we formed the Labor Action Committee to free Mumia Abu-Jamal because we understand that there is no justice in this racist, capitalist justice system. And it's going to take the working class in motion, mobilized, to free Mumia. What we did 23 years ago in 1999, first the teachers in Oakland, the OEA, had a one-day teach-in on the racist death penalty and on the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal. That set the stage for what the Longshore Union did later when we brought the question of Mumia Abu-Jamal, political prisoner, former Black Panther, supporter of MOVE, to the ILWU. And not only did the local here in San Francisco and Oakland call for shutting down the ports, but we took it to the entire union and we shut down the whole coast for Mumia Abu-Jamal.
All right. Yeah.
So I have the honor of introducing our next speaker from ILWU Local 10, who's carrying on this tradition of class struggle. David Newton is Huey Newton's nephew, and we call him on the waterfront Brother Newt. Come on up, Brother Newt.
All power to the people. I wore this shirt today with the date 1966, Oakland Black Panther Party, but it's an international party, a national party. February 17th, 1968, to go backward a little bit, my name is David L. Newton. I am a member of Local 10, #Longshoreman. Also, I'm a representative of the Young Panther Group. Yay. February 17, 1968, our people gathered not far from here at the Oakland Auditorium for a Free Huey rally. That was Huey's birthday, and he was unjustly charged with a murder charge against a policeman, similar to Mumia, brother Amia, comrade Mumia Abu-Jamal, who is Philadelphia. Now let's do the Philadelphia to Oakland connections. Oakland set it off. Philadelphia, they always set it off. Mumia is convicted while a mayor is in office. A former mayor was a previous police chief. I think that commissioner. I think that has to be mentioned. You're also talking about a governing body that blew up small children, women, and men in the MOVE group, dropped a bomb in the middle of the city. This is who this man is convicted under. So to say that he was unjustly convicted is not unreasonable. You have political prisoners that have been exonerated, like shout out Geronimo Pratt. Mumia has not been released from prison, but his prison death sentence has been reduced to life in prison. What a gift. Yeah. But if he was reduced to life in prison, why can't he be exonerated is my question. This man deserves a new trial. You have old former Panthers from Philadelphia, my aunt Elaine Brown, migrate to Oakland. You have my adopted uncle, David Hilliard. He couldn't even sleep in a house because the house may get raided. They had to keep garbage bags and run out the back door. The only time he could go to sleep was on a plane. He would charter a plane from Oakland to New York and back just to get a nice sleep. So this is the environment that Mumia is living in. You have to know that. So lastly, we want to say the 10-point program started with, well, let me come into modern day times a little bit. One of the most controversial statements of today's time is Brother Kanye West, the world's most hated. He said that slavery was a choice. What a sickening statement, but he's not all the way wrong. What he left out is you either live or you die. Yeah. I'm a descendant of the slave that chose to live. Dr. Huey P. Newton, my uncle, my father's name is Melvin, chose to live. We are descendants of them. I think it has to be mentioned Dr. Martin Luther King is an honorary longshoreman. He's a descendant of a slave. They chose to live. So you have to bring all of that in full fold. If I chose to die, do I kill my wife? Do I kill my children? Do I kill myself? So these are the choices that are made. Mumia Abu-Jamal has chosen to live, and we have to support this brother and help this brother come home. This brother has been gone for 40 years. This is ridiculous. So what more can we say? We're out here because we love Mumia. We love the people. All power is in the people, and we have to end this with the 10-point program started. Number 1, we want freedom. Number 10, we want justice and peace for all of our people. All power to the people.